And we are back on the DoD Modernization Exchange as we continue to talk about endpoints in the Navy with Justin Fanelli, Technical Director for Program Executive Office for Digital and Enterprise Services. He's also the Department of the Navy Chief Technology Officer. Also, Brandon Weller, the Technical Director at PEO for Manpower, Logistics, and Business Solutions. And Matthew Rambo, the Assistant Chief Engineer for Mission Capability at Naval Information Warfare Systems Command. And Matthew, in this segment, let me come to you first, actually, and pick up a bit on what Justin was talking about a little bit in our first segment with just the improvements that are at least possible now with telemetry and trying to understand what's exactly happening on your endpoints. I know the Navy broadly has used that a lot to try and get after user experience type issues. Feels like one of those things that's easier to do on the shore side than it is on the afloat side. But what kind of improvements have you seen on that telemetry and monitoring front so far, and what do you still need to do?
Yes, no, perfect question. From a NAVWAR perspective, fleet readiness is our number one priority right now. We feel that this approach allows us to, again, leverage that best of breed across the PEOs. So let's look for the best network monitoring management implementations and put that out across both our float units as well as our shore side. And let's take the collective teaming from the PEOs to figure out what a world-class network monitoring management solution should be. On the tactical side, we talked about some of the bandwidth improvements that have been occurring with emerging satellite capabilities and additional terminals that we've installed. And that also opens the door for better telemetry. So we have more throughput to be able to send information back and forth. And that really supports our need to get after really good fleet readiness, better visibility of the systems out on the platforms, as well as just that teaming with the platforms to make sure that their systems are up, running, and supporting the warfighter mission. So definitely that's a huge area, and the unified endpoint is a big piece of that, as well as just that best of breed between the PEOs and sharing those lessons learned and sharing the technology from a common implementation perspective.
And do you have any, it's still early days, but any kind of use cases yet on what you can start to do once you have that kind of granular data about how endpoints are performing? There's sometimes a tendency to collect a ton of data about that stuff, but not necessarily know what to do with it. Have you figured out what to do with it specifically?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely some great use cases. One is really just making sure that our in-service engineering agents typically San Diego, Charleston, that they're getting the right information so that we're able to troubleshoot and quickly resolve technical issues. So that telemetry data, we've shown in the past, we've done a number of initiatives where we've gotten more information that has substantively helped our ability to do remote assistance and get the fleet to a ready state in a much quicker fashion. The intent is also to, when we have a trouble ticket, that we're able to resolve it so that it doesn't turn into a larger casualty for the platform. And so just that time from issue identification to resolving it, we believe that both the tools and the monitoring capabilities, as well as be able to get that to the place where our subject matter experts are typically located, is critical to support fleet readiness.
And so I just want to emphasize, like, there are cases where in the not so distant past, this is so fragmented and fragile that we didn't have the telemetry to make those type of decisions, right? And so now there are cases where we are finding out about it before the ship. Now we can be proactive. They have enough to do, right? If this management can be seamless in the background, and we can worry about, hey, what do we do? Since I've been affiliated with the Navy, almost 25 years at some level, in and out, different places, we've always talked about, well, based on the very limited bandwidth, here are the capabilities. And so we've had sailors and then Marines who are looking at, who've never had to deal with Nielsen's law, which is to say that if we have more bandwidth, then adaptive people can figure out more what to do with it, right? And so we have some use cases for when they called the International Space Station from the middle of the ocean, when they are connecting to other ships point to point in a way that we hadn't been before. But the point is, our warfighters figuring out, and they're the creative ones. And so I think we're opening up the doors from an engineering perspective so that they can have more options available to them. If you have fragile tools, then not only are you not flexible, but you don't know what you can adapt to. And so by just giving them more um, options, more optionality, this benefits distributed maritime operations in general.
Brandon, coming to you next. I mean, what does that optionality do for you in all of the individual product lines that you have within MLB, and what kind of guidance do you expect to be able to issue out to them in terms of what is going to be possible now and how to change business a little bit here?
Sure. Yeah, it changes the way we design and iterate. Like I said before, it opens the aperture. So right now we're working on mobile application design policy that will future-proof our deliveries so that we can deliver on any mobile device, any platform, standardized to the enterprise service capabilities. So that's where we're driving in the future right now.
And Justin, coming back to you, what kind of feedback mechanisms does the Navy have, or do you need to create so that just in case whatever you end up providing from the enterprise level doesn't answer the mail for Brandon or whatever other PEO or whatever other program office isn't out there, so that they can channel that back up to you and influence the decision-making process at the big Navy level where a lot of these decisions are going to be made henceforth?
Let's talk about it. So in general, now we are doing a lot more structured piloting. And so we want to use commercial. There are luckily a lot of options. And so from a competitive perspective, rather than just picking something and then fielding it, we are learning in contact. We are learning by doing, but that can consist of multiple different offerings, one on one ship, one on another. And then we get the operational feedback from our users. One of our outcome-driven metrics that we make decisions based on for both source selection procurement as well as for enterprise service designation is what is the user experience? And they evaluate that. And so within our what we call Horizon 2, where we do structured piloting, we're going to get feedback. And if something's getting a net promoter score that's much higher than status quo, that gives us insight. If we have engineers that love something but sailors that don't, that's a problem, right? And so we're looking at each of those. It's complicated enough that we have a lot of rigor below it. It's simple enough that it's 5 things. It's less than a phone number. You can count them. And so whether that's operational resilience and user experience, we believe these are the right group of trade-offs to make decisions on what commercial solves this better, and then we can go out there and negotiate better rates. We can scale smartly. We are using modular technology, so if something stops doing the job, then we can swap it out and put something else in. But the answer to the question is, from a feedback perspective, we are having super users try things out before we go large and wide. We're doing that in action, and we're doing that through fleet experimentation.
And so in pursuit of that overall goal that you talked about at the beginning, making IT invisible and boring, obviously there's a lot of boring stuff that has to happen behind the scenes that hopefully nobody ever sees. But talk to us about some of that boring stuff. Contracts is one thing that comes to mind. I'm sure you're not ready to announce any kind of big change in the Navy's procurement approach for IT today, but what are the questions you're asking about what you have available to you now and what that future state in terms of an acquisition not even strategy, but contract structure that you might need to have in order to get after the changes that you want to see here?
We can reuse things that work. And so we have a Spiral 4 mobile contract that is for DoD wide, right? Where this is joint, maybe in the past, maybe years and years ago, we'd say, but we need our own Navy contract for mobile devices, really. And so in this case, we are using the buying power of the full Department of Defense to say, here are the best offerings. Here's what bulk can give us in terms of just the economics, and then pulling from that. So that's an example of a place where we wanted to use and leverage what existed to get the best of commercial, as opposed to doing something bespoke. So just like we said, we'd like to abstract the way that we're working with enterprise services. We'd like to abstract where possible, where we're working with different organizations or different contracts. Now, the PPBE has to catch up on some of these in terms of where the central funding is. And so we do want to do a lot of divestments. We want to do divestments of how we do distribution and bespoke sustainment solutions or management solutions. The quicker we can single up on that and what we call cattle drive, anything that isn't the way, the better. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to stop piloting. We're going to have small pilots in the background because we want to chase the next thing into Horizon Zero and cattle drive it out. We are going to keep running that down because we want those cycles to be much tighter. We've all been around for IT systems that were around for 10 years or 18 years, 18 months, guys. And so where we can have that be an iterative loop, we can turn that into the feedback loop, the sideways 8. We're going to measure every step of that.
Brandon and Matt, I'd love to have you weigh in on some of this, and just in terms of what it does for the communities that you pay the most attention to when you can get away from some of those bespoke solutions, buy more bulk, buy more commercial, buy things that work quickly.
Yeah, it provides flexibility and the ability to scale and deliver. There's definitely cost savings there. We'll be able to see the progress and the maturity in this in our WAM metrics as we move forward. We'll get to see things like our total cost per user coming down, our availability going up, and time lost for users going down. So these things are going to give us time back. To the second part of your question, what I really think it gives us is a bunch of enhancements. This entire effort enhances our ability to deliver. And I jotted down some notes before we met today. And secure and seamless access across the enterprise, improved application deployment and management, enhanced data visibility and decision support, all things we talked about so far, strengthened cybersecurity without sacrificing usability, reduced IT complexity and support overhead, which goes back to, putting these things in one area, taking that burden off of us. That's that support overhead that we can shed moving forward. And that's not just spending dollars that it's a burden. It's all of the teams and the support structures that it takes to do it. Having that centralized capability provides greater efficiencies and time lost back than people will realize. That's why I say I think the WAMs are going to be critical here to show that this, has capability to be a big win. And then lastly, it supports our ability to deliver agile development initiatives. Having these things available and ready when we need them lets us adapt and deliver at pace and speed, so we can have the right applications in the sailors' hands when they need it.
Just to quickly add as well, I think those were all spectacular points. From my perspective, so in my role, I lead the system engineering management across PEOC4I, MLB, and digital. And from my perspective, any second that our engineers are not, supporting a duplicative engineering effort or leveraging best of breed that another PEO is doing to be able to roll that technology in and deliver that is time that we are able to do something else. So we're able to, actually provide additional capability out to the warfighter as opposed to, rehosting something on different infrastructure or building a cyber patch and testing it on a different piece of equipment. So alignment of engineering efforts, streamlining this, and taking the best of breed is critical so that we're able to focus on really delivering critical capability out to the warfighter. So that's my perspective, and definitely across the board, we should be looking for these types of efficiencies and these types of the best of breed efforts so that we're able to share the engineering lessons learned.
And we're in a better place. It's easier to divest now, and it's going to get easier. The commercial offerings are better than they used to be. We can connect dots, and we were buying things, but were we investing? And so where we are using value engineering to make better decisions, this all amounts to information superiority. IT is not about the technology. It's about putting better decision opportunities in the hands of our sailors and our Marines. And that's why we do this for 12 hours a day and think about it at night. Like what we're all after is leaning out so that we can get much better. We can do so much better for them.
One of the implications, I think, of everything that we've been talking about here is, this device agnostic perspective that I think everybody's kind of moving to. And I wonder, if that's right, if that's the direction we're going, is one of the implications of that we just need less GFE. I mean, are there people who are getting government furnished equipment today because they need it or are perceived to need it? Is there some population out there that just doesn't because they just need to get their email and they can do that from a personal device?
I just turned my phone back in. I was carrying around two phones for a long time, and they said, "Oh, you work in the government," and so I don't anymore. And I think that from an operational perspective, the leaner, meaner, the fewer clicks it takes to do something. I think to your point. Let's be creative. Let's figure out how we can both save money and improve performance at the same time. And so there are places that are lower in the stack that we can invest more of that money in and have much better results. So I suspect that'll be a trend that grows.
And Matt, I think you're seeing that even in the afloat community, right? I mean, there was a time not that long ago where if you were underway and you needed to connect to anything, it was going to be on a government device. Now you're at the point where you have people connecting their own iPads to shipboard Wi-Fi. Really different experience.
Yeah, certainly. And beyond the obvious quality of service and quality of life benefits to that, which are critical to those systems. I think reduction of devices is definitely something that is an outcropping of this. And if training is accessible off of your personal device and you're able to conduct that using systems that we're delivering, then I 100% agree that we should be looking across the board on do we have the right size or the right count of end user devices and continuing to look at that mix as we field new technology.
And Justin, is the cost saving that you ultimately arrive at through all of this is a substantial part of that from just needing to buy less stuff, or is it more about process and not using as expensive or as complicated processes to get devices out there?
I think you'll have both. I think ultimately, like where you can divest to reinvest, it depends on the severability. And so a lot of this came out of pilots that we were doing. In this particular case, we opened the gates, we opened the doors to private sector that said, how do you think we save money? And they've given us creative ideas, technologies that have said, hey, through, in some cases, commercial solutions offering, which the SecDef just put out as, hey, here is a way. We use a lean business case that says, tell us what we can cut. But if you just save everyone a minute, then it's hard to divest anything. We want that. We want that time back to our users, but we have to find severable things to cut and lean out. And so I think that'll be a combination of, hey, here are competing things that have no longer like they're a pilot that doesn't need to be a pilot anymore. And that we can send that over to Horizon Zero. And then in some cases, if you have modern tech, then you don't have to go through the whole government off-the-shelf maintenance cycle. And those can be a lot cleaner. We have some people who are leaning forward to use AI on concept generation or documentation or maintenance or training. And so I think from an adaptability perspective, there's a lot of opportunity to do these things differently, and that's leaning in and down, and that's also leaning up in terms of leaning upwards in terms of like what can be done, and then what functions on the ship might change, what functions in the enterprise might drastically change. Do we need to backfill everybody because we've deleted a process or streamlined a process? We could show you the lists there, but looking a lot harder than we used to be on that.
And we are down to our literal last 1 or 2 minutes here. Justin, any final thoughts here before we close out?
Sure. This is all in the interest of service, but the exciting part is we now can go much faster. And so the more that we centralize and simplify, that like we can build off of this momentum. And so this becomes a vicious circle of winning. I think we can do drastically better things at the application level and the comms level than we had before by just simplifying and not worrying about backsliding as much. I think Brandon even had a couple recent wins in this space.
Yeah, Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah, we recently our Ready Relevant Learning program, ROL, did some testing afloat with enhanced connectivity capabilities and mobile devices where sailors now had the opportunity during this pilot to do a 40-hour course while underway. So that's a major benefit to a sailor not having to wait to come back into port to do curriculum training or being able to get the latest and greatest training while they're out there. So just another area where delivering to the point of need and delivering at the speed of capability. And that's just a small segment. So it'll be exciting when this capability is available across the board. Over.
That shows you how much catching up we have to do. So time to get back to work.
Indeed. Get back to work, everybody. Thanks, Justin, and thanks to all of our guests. We've been talking with Justin Fanelli, Technical Director of the Program Executive Office for Digital and Enterprise Services, also the Department of the Navy Chief Technology Officer. Also with us has been Brandon Weller, the Technical Director at PEO for Manpower, Logistics, and Business Solutions, and Matthew Rambo, Assistant Chief Engineer for Mission Capability at Naval Information Warfare Systems Command. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to our viewers. I'm Jared Serbu, Federal News Network. Thanks for watching us on the DoD Modernization Exchange. Now we're going to send it back to the studio again.
Excellent.
All right. Great job, guys. Thank you.